Hello there, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful new year and a chance to relax over the holidays. And, well, I hope you're all bound for grand adventures in this 2024. And for us, we start this new year with a bit of a, let's call it the weekly new, if you will. Yeah, starting this week, we're going to change this program up a little bit to new trends, new patterns that we're seeing that we think you may want to pay attention to. But it won't necessarily be the news. And in fact, we hope to uncover these new trends, these new patterns before they become, the news. So to start, let's get meta, shall we? What should we be paying attention to? Well, let's start with attention. Yeah, that's right. As the famous song says, everything old is new again. And attention metrics, well, that's one thing that B2B marketers are really going to be paying attention to this year. Yeah, remember before we could measure things like clicks and acquisition and engagement and all those digital things, we used to buy advertising trying for the idea that people would, give us some attention. You want to know more about that? Well, this is 5 minutes of What's New for Marketing, January 5th, 2024. Let's roll. Hello there, everybody. Robert Rose with What's New in Marketing, a slightly new format. It is about what's new, but most importantly, it's what's important that you may want to pay attention to in our world of marketing. And you can go subscribe to the best of what's new in marketing at contentmarketinginstitute.com. Well, it seems as if we move into 2024, we are going to be paying more and more attention to attention. Yeah, that's right. What technology gives, it also takes away. And what it takes away, it also gives. It's one of the oldest things that we've seen in marketing really become relevant again. So 25 years ago, before we could really measure things like clicks and views and downloads and all the things that became digital marketing, we used to think about how we were capturing attention. And in those old days, we would place ads in magazines or on television or in outdoor billboards. And then what we would do is run that campaign for a certain amount of time. And then we'd go ask the consumers, hey, do you remember seeing this ad? It was called ad recall or brand recall. It was basically going, hey, did we get your attention when we ran this ad that cost us a pretty penny to make? And one of the more interesting things that came out during those days was that some people actually carried with them a set of liked and disliked commercials. I mean, I know I did anyway. I can still see old TV ads that I can remember distinctly. Yeah, I really liked that, or those that I absolutely couldn't stand. And that was often called the question in ad recall. It wasn't like, hey, did we get your attention only? It was also, hey, if we did get your attention, did you like what you saw? Well, here we are, some 25 years later, and now performance metrics that rely on a lot of data, it's becoming increasingly hard to ascertain. Privacy issues have taken away a lot of the fancier metrics that marketers are tracking against performance-based digital advertising. Additionally, and I've talked about this at some length in other pieces, the whole idea of brand safety, where a programmatic ad may appear adjacent to either some provocative, unethical, or even fraudulent content, has really encouraged marketers of all stripes really to put much more focus on the who is getting the impressions and where they are getting those impressions with their expensive media buys. And it's that tension, the need for better insight into who and where is getting impressed with our ads, along with the emerging difficulty of actually tracking data-driven performance, it's giving a real re-rise, as it were, to renewed popularity, if you will, to attention metrics. Additionally, there are new technologies here that are making attention metrics much more interesting than they've been in the past. So, what are these ways of capturing the ideas of attention and measuring that? One is about biometrics. There's new technology now that can do facial recognition, eye tracking, even things like measuring brain waves. Now, of course, much like the focus groups of the past, this type of measurement usually requires some form of controlled group that tests, when we can really look at the people because, nobody's really hooking up brain waves to their computer before they surf the web. The second, but much more popular, are combinations of data signals that can be ascertained from the publisher itself. Now, these include things like dwell time, scroll speed, cursor location, completion rates, especially for things like video and audio. And these are, of course, easier to track. But as of yet, there are no real current standards for attention metrics, so there's quite a bit of interpretation to still do here. And then lastly, there are explicit feedback, and this is one of my favorites actually for getting attention metrics, and that includes what I've come to call emotional data. That's where audiences will often tell you what they paid attention and if they paid attention to something, especially if it's valuable content like a blog post or a thought leadership piece or an interactive application. And you can get true levels of audience engagement and attention level metrics by simply asking or providing some sort of interactive engagement with the media itself. Now, perhaps the most interesting trend of all of these is sort of the growth of artificial intelligence to consume a combination of a number of these metrics and, like artificial intelligence really does, combine them all together into an attention metric that brands can use. New technology solutions from companies like Lumen Research, Adelaide, Playground XYZ, well, they're all working on providing solutions that combine many of these metrics and machine learning to create much more interesting types of attention metrics for marketers. And I'll add one additional thing that I think really makes attention metrics worth, paying attention to. I really do believe that brand and authentic human-sourced aspects of content will become a big differentiator in 2024. As generative AI begins to scale marketing content from the creation of advertising and imagery to derivative content, even some aspects of thought leadership, I think successful companies will lean into their human creators, subject matter experts, and their brand in order to create differentiation in the experiences that they create. Now, that'll mean holding attention will be a key measurement of understanding what's really working with that human content over time. So, this is really something I think you may want to pay attention to. Attention, that is. How about you? What do you think? And that's it. That's 5 minutes of what's new in marketing. And remember, until I see you next week, it's your story to tell. Pay attention to attention and make sure you tell it well. I'll see you.